If I were to ask you the question, what makes a good Tarkov player, you would probably have a handful of different game qualities pop up in your mind that you'd answer with. Of course, this question and this whole concept is very much a subjective one. For a game like Tarkov, there is no single right answer. So it pretty much boils down to what you value as a Tarkov player when you're either in or out of your raids. Some people focus on the value of being able to fight AI and other players strictly. Others will want to know how to maximize their profits in raid as much as possible. And the rest probably just go with the flow and feel out raids for what they might be worth. And while I'm eager to hear what people's comments on this topic will be, so leave your thoughts down below and subscribe if you enjoy these kinds of questions, I personally have some of my own values that individually don't mean too much, but when put together, come together and show off knowledge, skill, and of course, game enjoyment. The first and most likely obvious one that everyone initially thought of is the ability to land your shots. Tarkov is a game where your aim can make the difference between walking out of a raid with 60 kilos worth of gear or being sent back to your stash prematurely. It's one thing to die to another player and not see them because they hit an incredible shot from a long distance. It's another thing entirely to turn a corner and see someone there and exchange gunfire and whiff all your shots. And it's those moments where your aim needs to be supreme. And for those who feel theirs is lacking, you can always practice offline, use the shooting range and adjust your flicks accordingly to get a feel for recoil on guns with certain builds. And there's even games outside of Tarkov that might be able to assist, something like Aim Labs might be able to help you. Granted, anything outside of Tarkov won't have that feel of the game, so it may help with only the first shot that comes out of your gun. But hey, if you get good enough in that regard, then who needs to even work on anything after, right? But seriously, aim is important in Tarkov. I sometimes honestly like to downplay the value of a good shot, partially because others harp on it a little too much sometimes, but they have a point. Being able to land lethal damage against others in a tough situation will simply mean you survive more often, and that has a lot of innate value in it. Less times you need to re-kit up and spend money on gear, which means less money spent on insurance, and the only thing you might need to spend your valuable rubles on is repairing armor and refilling ammo. Survival streaks feel incredible to have happen when you play. It's a stride that is unlike a lot of other games. Lots of places talk about flow state, and while I personally don't know a ton about it and haven't done a lot of research on it, when you get those kinds of moments in Tarkov, you feel almost invincible, and that confidence means you'll just play better. Well, most of the time at least. Another angle to the successful Tarkov formula is having the general knowledge of the game in your back pocket. And this goes without saying, but knowing things like the ammo charts, armor values, what their materials are made of, knowing the quests, the map layouts, and extractions, it's important to have an understanding of all these complexities that BSG wants us to engage with as players of their game. If you're new, these things won't come naturally, and it will be difficult and most likely overwhelming at first, because the game throws a lot of information at you that you need to comprehend. And honestly, it leaves out a lot of the important bits that should just be in the damn game, but maybe one day we'll get there. Luckily, if you are unfamiliar with certain things, or like me and need a refresher on a maybe obtuse ammo that never gets used, the Tarkov wiki has all that information aggregated into a single location. It should be your go-to place should you have any questions about things in the game that are new, or maybe you just forgot. All these elements come together so that when you go into a raid, you have a game plan and can stick to it as much as possible. Now, because you are playing Tarkov, things won't always go according to your plan. You might hear a ton of action where you need to go and don't want to get directly involved. Or you might get into a fight you weren't expecting and come out on top, and now you have all this extra loot that you need to consider. Do you take it and just leave, or do you risk it all and finish whatever it is that you started? This is where the final element of being successful in Tarkov really kicks in. Being adaptable in Tarkov is something I feel as though people might sleep on by being able to load into a raid with a game plan, have said plan go completely out the window, and figure out what to do next. Dealing with whatever the raid has to offer is certainly a skill in its own right. And it's probably the one you do the most, but don't even think about, because you're subconsciously making all of these rapid-fire decisions about where to go, what to kill, killing that scav, but leaving the other one alive so we can call out other players in your area. You watch anyone play this game, even people that pop 18 stims and just hold W, and you still see so many choices being made, whether they verbalize it or not. It coincides with having that game sense of Tarkov, knowing what weapon is being fired off in the distance, where people spawn, and what their initial paths might be. Granted, some of these come quicker than others. The spawns can be seen online, so you'll know where they are. But again, it's knowing player tendencies and where they might go and what they might do. Just knowing the spawn sometimes isn't enough. If you spawn next to Crack House on Customs, you know that someone is most likely spawning over at Old Gas and could either run over to Chemical Part 4 building or make a beeline towards Stronghold and get eyes on you very quickly. It takes maybe 15 to 20 seconds before you'll start getting shot at. I only know this from personal experience, and it never ends well because I forget how fast people can move around in this game sometimes. But every once in a while I come out on top, so it's that game sense and having the knowledge and understanding of where people might go that can sometimes lead you to be successful. Tarkov is certainly a complex game. We all know that at this point. I know I've said this probably 100 times by now, but it's worth restating. Being good at Tarkov doesn't have to mean anything I've laid out here to you personally. This is very much a subjective question and a subjective answer, and there isn't a wrong one either. You want to be good at PvP? Go for it, practice that. You want to know how to level up the fastest after a wipe? Hey, that's a great strategy to get a leg up on other players on wipe. Or do you want to just become the most consistent and proficient at this game? That's my personal wish. I've always wanted to try and get better, but nerves, bad decisions, and sometimes just good old bad luck can impede that progress. That doesn't mean I won't ever stop trying to become quote-unquote good at this game. It sometimes sucks. It feels like the game's out to get you, and all the problems that it has come reeling back at you at all in one moment. You play something so much and so hard, all you do is see the problems with it and get frustrated with the game. And in those instances, you might need to just take a break and put it aside for a little while. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. In your eyes, what makes a good Tarkov player? Please leave your thoughts down below in the comment section and subscribe for more videos about what separates people from consistently surviving their raids in this game. I hope to see you in future ones.
Don't give up.